Hello there. We're going to be talking about the airline pilot career overview today. This is kind of the job you get after the job. Nobody gets their commercial ticket and then moves right into the airlines anymore. There's certain minimums that have to get met, certain training that needs to be done. And so this is kind of what most people feel is the end game. This is what we're building towards. This is the kind of job that most people want to end up when they say they're going to be a pilot. So you got some steps that need to happen between kind of graduation and this job. We'll talk a little bit about what those are, and then we'll talk a little bit about what happens when you get there. So go over some terms. So we're on the same page. Aviation is all about the different terms, and you got to know your alphabet pretty well to figure out what people are talking about sometimes. But there's a whole slide of terms that we can briefly look at so that we kind of are on the same page when we start talking about different stuff. I don't have to read them all out to you, but there they are. So the training that's required for an airline transport pilot is covered under Part 61.159 and .160 in the Code of Federal Regulations, or the Federal Aviation Regulations. The 159 is kind of the baseline, and then 160 modifies that depending on what kind of education you get, what kind of training programs you go through. A lot of people think that the ATP, or don't think this is the last step. You know, you're going to start off getting your private pilot's license, and then you're going to get your instrument rating, your commercial pilot's license, multi-engine rating, and then finally build up a bunch of hours doing different jobs, and then move on to work, or to at least get your ATP. It's required for Part 121 operations, which is scheduled airline operations, although most Part 135, which is charter and on-demand operations, also will require you to have your ATP to act as pilot in command. So your airline transport pilot's license is it's a certificate that you hold. The airline transport pilot is the job that you have, so it's kind of both. And then 160 will cover the programs that similar to what Liberty offers. So for 159, that sets the baseline for all pilots, unless it's otherwise modified, where you need to have a total of 1,500 total hours before you can even take the test to become a pilot, airline transport pilot. Included in that is that you need to have 500 of those hours have to be cross country, 100 hours have to be nighttime. There's ways to modify that, bring that number down a little bit. 75 hours needs to be instrument either actual or simulated, and then 250 hours have to be in pilot and command. Another thing that's not listed there is that 50 hours have to be in the category or class, or in the class aircraft that you're going to be taking a test in, although most people are going to have access to those airplanes prior to this stage. It's not like you're going to be going out and flying a big regional jet under Part 91. So that's usually included in the airline's trainings syllabus to get you those 50 hours. So, if you need to have the 1,500 hours marked, they could hire you at 1,450, and then the 50 extra hours will be part of their training thing, so that, boom, right, you're at 1,500 and can take the test. Part 160 allows you to drop those numbers down. When I enrolled in Liberty, the only program that they offered, even though you were getting your bachelor's degree, it didn't have enough credit hours to satisfy the 60 credit hour minimum that would drop it all the way down to 1,000. So the programs like the BS in aeronautics only dropped down to 1,250, although it also drops down the cross-country time requirement, which is very helpful. Current programs, because of the extended credits, allow it to be dropped all the way down to the 1,000-hour mark. And then if you have military service, that can even drop it down further. And include that. It doesn't apply to me, it doesn't apply to many people. When you're an airline transport pilot, health is important. It's kind of an all-the-time job. When you go on trips, even though you're not technically flying, you're still a representative of the company, so you need to take care of yourself. There's different regulations as far as alcohol and that kind of thing, when you can have it and when you can fly. You can be getting regular health checkups through an airline medical examiner, basically throughout your whole life. Under the age of 40, it's once a year. After 40, it's going to be twice a year. One of those visits is going to be with an electrocardiogram. Make sure your ticker's doing all right. I got my first one 2 medicals ago. After the age of 35, you have to kind of get a baseline, and then after you're 40, it's a once a year thing. And so knowing that you're going to be constantly checked up on, you got to take care of yourself. Any other time you go to the doctor, it all has to be reported. And then there's certain things that pilots just can't fly with, where it wouldn't bother an office worker or a factory worker or something like that. And so it's something you need to be aware of. Normally if somebody wouldn't call out when they just had a bad head cold, they'd kind of go to work and suffer through it. But you can very easily rupture an eardrum flying with head congestion. So it's important. You can't have this job if you don't take care of yourself. And so health is a priority. After you get the job, you've passed your FAA exam, you've got your license. Additional training is required every year, every 6 months. Additional recurrent training is going to be involved in keeping you current and keeping you legal. Normally, a commercial pilot just would need to complete a flight review every 24 months. I used to call them BFRs for biannual flight review, but then you don't have to wait all 24 months, so they changed the name to just a flight review. But for under Part 121 operations, you need to you're going to have a proficiency check, and then every 6 months, and then a simulator course, and it kind of just rotates every 6 months. So constant training going on, constant testing going on to make sure that you're still performing at a level that keeps everybody safe. And they will usually schedule those into your system, into your schedule. So instead of going on a trip, you go to the simulator and handle simulator duties. It's important to realize that you're going to be working as a team, a very close-knit team when you're an airline transport pilot. You got you and then the other pilot in the cockpit. You got the people in the cabin crew. You've got the ground staff. You've got air traffic control. All these people have to work together. You have to know what your role is. You have to know what other people's role are, so you can make sure that they're doing what they should. Effective communication is the key. That should be in super ultra bold. You have to clearly state what it is you want somebody to do, so that there's you're not just going for for understanding. You want to make sure there's no misunderstanding. And then, when you first get this ATP job, you're going to be flying with people that are significantly more experienced than you are, but it's still your job to make sure that they're doing their job. And so you should feel confident in doing those checks and balances to make sure that the whole flight crew works together. Currently there's a pilot shortage. That's why a lot of people are getting into this now. They changed the rules for retirement age, and that kind of dried up a lot of pilot jobs, and because flight training is expensive, people just weren't getting the training and then not getting a job. They just weren't getting training at all. And so because of that change in retirement age, a lot of people weren't getting trained. Because there weren't students, a lot of flight schools went out of business. And so right now we're working back up to refilling the pipeline. And so there's opportunity abounds. There's going to be a tremendous amount of jobs. And the people that are doing those entry-level jobs right now that build the hours are getting eaten up quick. And so those entry-level jobs are getting to be a little bit more financially viable. And so, because of the pilot shortage, there's a regional airline pay has increased. So it makes it easier to pay off those student loans, pay for the flight training. And like I said, they'll be offering jobs to people knowing that their training program is going to get them to their ATP minimums, so that basically people are hitting these jobs right after they hit the minimum hours. So just to sum up, this is not the first job that you get. This is kind of where you're going to be setting your sights. You do these other jobs to get to this one. You're going to start at regionals, so it's Endeavor, Envoy, SkyWest, and then you move up onto the major carriers. You're continuously training. You're continuously being tested, and it is a career. It's not just a job. You got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you can perform. You do spend a lot of time away from home in this position, but there's excellent pay and benefits to make up for that. You get flight benefits for your family so that they can fly for little to no cost. The money is excellent. I mean, $60,000 to start is nothing to sneeze at, and then the pay scale just goes up and up from there. It's nothing for a Delta captain to be making $300,000 a year. So, hope that gives you a little overview of the airline transport pilot job. I hope that everybody that wants it can reach out and grab it, because it's you end up with the best view of any job there is, except maybe for an astronaut. So, thank you and goodbye.